only a tiny bit left to go in this, the 35th chapter of David Copperfield, which is called Depression. We know that Betsy Trotwood has fallen on hard times, and in order to help his aunt, David is asked to be let out of his contract with Mr. Spenlow, but neither Spenlow nor his partner seem to want to be the ones to object or allow him to leave the contract. Now, David and Agnes are back in David's rooms where Mrs. Krupp has fallen out with Betsy Trotwood. We began to talk about my aunt's losses, and I told them what I had tried to do that morning. "Which is injudicious, Trot," said my aunt, "but well meant. You are a generous boy, I suppose I must say young man now, and I am proud of you, my dear. So far, so good. Now, Trot and Agnes, let us take the case of Betsy Trotwood in the face and see how it stands." I observed Agnes turn pale as she looked very attentively at my aunt. My aunt, patting her cat, looked very attentively at Agnes. "What's to be done? Here's the cottage taking one time with another will produce, say, £70 a year. I think we may safely put it down at that. Well, that's all we've got," said my aunt, with whom it was an idiosyncrasy, as it is with some horses, to stop very short when she appeared to be a fair way of going on for a long while. "Then," said my aunt, after a rest, "there's Dick. He's good for 100 a year, but of course that must be expended on himself. I would sooner send him away, though I know I am the only person who appreciates him, than have him and not spend his money on himself. How can Trot and I do best upon our means? What do you say, Agnes?" "I say, aunt," I interposed, "that I must do something." "Go for a soldier, do you mean?" returned my aunt, alarmed. "Or go to sea? I won't hear of it. You are to be a proctor. We are not going to have any knockings on the head in this family, if you please, sir." "I've been thinking, Trotwood," said Agnes diffidently, "that if you had time—" "I have a good deal of time, Agnes. I am always disengaged after 4 or 5 o'clock, and I have time early in the morning, in one way or... Oh, this is him talking. "I have a good deal of time, Agnes. I am always disengaged after 4 or 5 o'clock, and I have time early in the morning, in one way or another," I said, conscious of reddening a little as I thought of the hours and hours I had devoted to fagging about town and to and fro upon the Norwood Road. "I have an abundance of time." "I know you would not mind," said Agnes, coming to me and speaking in a low voice, so full of sweet and hopeful consideration that I hear it now. "The duties of a secretary." "Mind, my dear Agnes, because," continued Agnes, "Dr. Strong has acted on his intention of retiring, and has come to live in London, and he asked Papa, I know if he could recommend him one. Don't you think he would rather have his favourite old pupil near him than anybody else?" "Dear Agnes," said I, "what should I do without you? You are always my good angel. I told you so. I never think of you in any other light." Agnes answered with her pleasant laugh that one good angel, meaning Dora, was enough, and went on to remind me that the doctor had used to occupy himself in his study early in the morning and in the evening, and that probably my leisure would suit his requirements very well. I was scarcely more delighted with the prospect of earning my own bread than with the hope of earning it under my old master, in short, acting on the advice of Agnes. I sat down and wrote a letter to the doctor, stating my object, and appointing to call on him the next day at 10 in the forenoon. This I addressed to Highgate, for in that place, so memorable to me, he lived, and went and posted myself without losing a minute. Wherever Agnes was, some agreeable token of her noiseless presence seemed inseparable from the place. When I came back, I found my aunt's birds hanging just as they had hung so long in the parlour window of the cottage, and my easy chair, imitating my aunt's much easier chair, in its position at an open window, and I was looking on, thinking of how even Peggotty seemed to do with a good deal of bustle, and how Agnes did without any bustle at all. We sat there talking about our pleasant old Canterbury days, an hour or two. I pray heaven that I never may forget the dear girl and her love and truth. At that time of my life, oh, Agnes, sister of my boyhood, if I had known then what I knew long afterwards, There was a beggar in the street when I went down, and I turned my head toward the window, thinking of her calm, seraphic eyes. He made me start by muttering, as if he were an echo of the morning, "Blind, blind, blind." And that is the end of chapter 35.